ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पातरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse number 16. You can repeat after me. Jnanena tu tad ajnanam
ज्ञानेन तु तत् अज्ञानम्
esham nashitam atmanaha
येषां नाशितमात्मनः
tesham adityavajnanam
तेषाम् आदित्यैपज्ञानं
prakashayati tatparam.
प्रकाशयति तत्परम्।
Jnanena tu tad ajnanam
ज्ञानेन तु तत् अज्ञानम्
esham nashitam
येषां नाशितमात्मनः
तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं
तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं
प्रकाशयति तत्परम्।
प्रकाशयति तत्परम्।
ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानम्
ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानम्
येषां नाशितमात्मनः
येषां नाशितमात्मनः
तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं
तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं
प्रकाशयति तत्परम्।
प्रकाशयति तत्परम्।
Anyone would like to recite the verse?
ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानम्
ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानं
येषां नाशितमात्मनः
येषां नाशितमात्मनः
तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं
तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं
प्रकाशयति तत्परम्।
प्रकाशयति तत्परम्।
ज्ञानेन तु तद् अज्ञानम्
ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानम्
येषां नाशितम् आत्मनः
येषां नाशितमात्मनः
तेषाम् आदित्यवज्ञानम्
तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं
प्रकाश्यति परम्।
प्रकाशयति तत्परम्।
Okay, we'll go for synonyms. Jnanena,
ज्ञानेन
by knowledge.
By
by
knowledge.
knowledge,
Tu,
to
but,
but
tat,
tat
that,
that
ajnanam,
Ajnanam,
ajnanam
nescience,
nations
esham,
Yesham,
yesham
whose,
whose
whose
nashitam,
Nasitam
nashitam
is destroyed,
is
is
destroyed,
destroyed,
atmanaha,
Atmanaha
atmanaha
of the living entity,
of
of
the
the living entity,
tesham,
Tesham,
tesham
they,
their
their
adityavat,
Aditya,
Adityavat,
like the rising sun.
like the
the
rising sun.
Jnanam,
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 knowledge.
knowledge,
knowledge.
Prakashayati,
Prakash,
Prakashayate,
discloses.
disclose,
discloses.
Tatparam,
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 Krishna consciousness.
Krishna
Krishna
consciousness.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
consciousness.
When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which essence is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Purport. Those who have forgotten Krishna must certainly be bewildered, but those who are in Krishna consciousness are not bewildered at all. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam Dhyana Plavena. Jnanagnihi sarva karmani and nahi jnanena sadrisham. Knowledge is always highly esteemed. And what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders unto Krishna. As is said in the seventh chapter, 19th verse, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. After passing through many births, when one perfect in knowledge surrenders unto Krishna, or when one attains Krishna consciousness, then everything is revealed to him, as everything is revealed by the sun in the daytime. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. For instance, when he unceremoniously thinks himself God, he actually falls into the last snare of nescience. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? Does God become bewildered by nescience? If so, then the nescience or Satan is greater than God. Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide spiritual master and under him learn what Krishna consciousness is. For Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all nescience as the sun drives away darkness. Even though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not this body but is transcendental to the body, he still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and the supersoul. However, he can know everything well if he cares to take shelter of the perfect bona fide Krishna conscious spiritual master. One can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. A representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all the respect ordinarily paid to God because he has knowledge of God. One has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. Lord Sri Krishna therefore stated in the second chapter 2:12 that every living being is individual and that the Lord also is individual. They were all individuals in the past. They are individuals at present, and they will continue to be individuals in the future, even after liberation. At night, we see everything as one in darkness, but in day, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. Translation once again. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which essence is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Okay, so this verse, let's see the verse. So now we yesterday Prabhuji explained about like a previous verse. So what was the previous verse? The previous verse said that nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So we have seen that how the real knowledge of how the pure consciousness of the living entity is covered by different layers, and in the last series in third chapter. So, and here in the in this verse 5:15, Krishna says, Lord is not responsible for anybody's sinful actions or pious activities. So moving forward in 5:16, it says, Jnanena tu tadajnanam. Jnanena tu tadajnanam. So let's see, like jnana means like knowledge. That means this refers to the previous verse. That what is that means? The covering due to the ignorance. So that ajnanam means like ignorance. So what removes that ignorance, which is explained in previous verse? That is jnana. That is the jnana, means real knowledge. So jnani na tu tad ajnanam. Next, esham nashitam atmanaha. So atmanaha means the soul. So soul, nashitam means destroyed, like it is destroyed. Yeah. So esham, whose atma, like who the soul's ignorance can be destroyed. And when that happens, when that knowledge comes, right? When that knowledge comes, the soul, the nature of that knowledge is it destroys the ajnanam. So then how it destroys? Tesham aditya vajnanam. Aditya means the sun. So what jnanam? So how the sun dissipates the darkness. So in the same way, the knowledge illuminates the atma, the person, by destroying his ignorance. So that way aditya means sun. So when that knowledge comes, the nature of the knowledge is aditya vajnanam. So its knowledge arises like a sun. So when knowledge arises, what will happen? Prakashayati tatparam. Prakasha means illuminates. So what does it illuminates? Tat param, that absolute truth. Param means the absolute. But tat param here, Prabhupada is translated as Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada translates this tat param as Krishna consciousness, because that is the this verse is significant here. So far we have read like about the karma yogi, so who want actions in Krishna consciousness, so who want detached from the results or activity, but work for the service of Krishna. So that karma yogi, whoever is working, this verse, like he is enlightening, taking one step ahead, and he is making transition from Atma Jnana to Paramatma Jnana. So Tat Param is here Paramatma. So far he learned about the soul and everything, and how he should not get attached, everything like that. But now he's rising one step from to Atma Jnana to Paramatma Jnana. So then what will happen gradually? So when Karma Yogi started working with detachment, but when Karma Yogi works, gradually the knowledge awakens. So when the knowledge awakens, what will happen? The inner illumination will become enlightened. So then what will happen? Then he goes beyond the I'm not this body, I'm the soul, but also there is a presence of the Supreme Lord in the form of Paramatma within me. So that's where the next step comes in the Karma Yogi's knowledge. So there is a there is a Supreme Lord in the form of super soul present in my heart, and he is my well-wisher, and he is object of my devotion, and he is the witness for all my activities, and he is my goal of my sacrifice, because Karma Yogi do some sacrifice, he works and he want to get connect, both will be there. He works and he is trying to get detached from his work. At the same time, his goal is to understand Lord and to go to the Lord. So that's how his knowledge illuminates. His knowledge takes one step ahead. Think that one there is a Lord as staying in my heart, and he is my well-wisher, and he is my goal, and he is present in my heart. So that's how the his knowledge takes next step. So how it is compared in this verse, this knowledge illumines like how the sun when there is darkness. So we try to see the when the darkness is there, we try to use the torchlight or something. So consider you entered into the dark room, and you don't know what is what, and we don't know anything. Then if you use torchlight, what will happen? You can see little bit forward, like how much that depends on the torchlight focus and capacity. We see that much only. It won't show like a whole room, like a boom, I can see everything in the room, not like that. So torchlight is little better than darkness. So when we use torchlight, we see little the scope of forward, little bit ahead, what is there and all. If we keep moving the torchlight, then we can see what is there like that. So in the same way, when the sun arises, so when that is how, when the sun is there in the daytime, it's clear. So we see what is what. Here is a chair, here is a person, we see the reality as real, right? But when it is in the dark room, we can't see. So that's how the knowledge illuminates the living entities consciousness. So that knowledge is going to help him to illumine inside, that is the inner illumination. So how it is, like, let's see. So we practice in sadhana bhakti in our because we use our scriptural knowledge, we based on our whatever knowledge we have from the scriptures, we try to put that that in our practice. Like we use like a little bit of torch like that. So what will happen if we take a shelter of a, here Prabhupada said in the purport, like, one has to take the shelter of a representative of God. So who is representative of God here is, so who knows the science of God and who shows the path to take the conditioned soul towards to that one, he is the representative of God. So that is spiritual master. So by taking the spiritual master, so we may use torchlight with basis of our limited understanding, hearing here and there, we use torchlight. But when we take shelter of the spiritual master, then what will happen? The sun, how the sunrise dissipates the whole darkness, and we see clarity very clearly, what is what is real, what is reality and everything. So that's how the spiritual master is going to enlighten our internal ignorance. Like, he's going to destroy all the thing, and he gives the illumination from inner. So that's where we can see the reality as reality. So that's how it says prakashayanti tatparam. That sun dissipates, like, how the darkness, in the same way this representative of the God is going to enlighten within our heart so that we can see the reality. So that's how it says here. And here if you move prakashayanti tatparam, so that tat is not described here, because going forward in last verse of 5th chapter, there Krishna says what is the tat. So that param is, like, that is a supreme absolute truth. That is what it describes in 529. Voktaram yajna tapasam sarvalokam heshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shranti mruchati. So he's saying there, it says, like, who is that well-wisher, who is the supreme enjoyer, or who is the friend to all these things explained in that verse. So but it starts from this, like, the transition of jnana, atma jnana to paramatma jnana. So with this knowledge, Karma Yogi understand that, like, there is a Tatparam, that absolute truth. It's going to become reveal, and one has to focus on that one, right? So here it says, like, Prabhupada explains, just knowing that I am not this body, I am the soul, that is not going to help us to enlighten towards the spirituality. Because if you see, even Socrates also in his real life, he knows very well, like, I am not this body, I am the soul. That's why he was very fearless in his life. But at the same time, that is not going to help. So our main goal is to attain supreme Lord's shelter. So that's where we have to go back to the place where we belong to. So that is the deep knowledge. Like, it's not only knowing, like, one sentence, I'm not this body, I'm this soul. It's not like that. So that Tatparam, how we can meditate, how we can attain that Tatparam, is explained in the next verse. It's 517, very clearly explains there. So next it says in Prabhupada purport, one can know God and one's relationship with God only when actually meets a representative of God. So who is the representative? As I said, it is like, spiritual master. That spiritual master is the one who have seen that, who have known the science of God. He is going to help us to illuminate the inner knowledge, and with that facility, a person moves closer and closer to the Lord and moves more advanced into the spiritual. Then next it says, like, here Prabhupada said, the one who the last snare of Maya is thinking that the living entity is the God. If a living entity thinks that he is God, that is the last snare of essence. That is excuse me, that is the highest bewildered stage one can reach. So that is the one it says. And Prabhupada says here, if anyone represents, like, says that when I am the God, so actually in one of the interview he says he's not God, he is a dog. So just interchange, like a God, dog. He is a dog, that's why he is calling himself as God, like that he says. So a representative never claims that he is God. So he says that when he is a servant of God, and he don't take that one, like, God's position. Nobody can take God's position. That's what it says. And very as it's stated in Prabhupada, like in chapter 212, that verse is natve vaham jatunasham natvam neme janadipa nachayavana bhavishyama sarve vayam atah param. So it says that one there, when I did not exist, nor all these kings, nor anybody here, like it means that that verse clears that everyone has individuality. Everyone are unique in the point of Krishna. So that individuality exists forever. Nobody is going to lose that individuality. That's why the purport ends here. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. So no soul, nothing, no one as a soul, it's not going to lose any individuality. If I'm a soul, if I'm a spark, my individuality is there in that spark. And if some others is there, they have their individuality. No merging, no including, no together, nothing. That is a Mayavada philosophy. So soul doesn't lose their individuality. That's what Prabhupada is saying. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. Very precise one sentence which preaches a lot in this sentence. Identity means, like, identifying, but individuality, we are individual, and identifying with that individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. So that is the what it says. This verse is saying. And at the same time, of course, like, if as I said, like, if we are into the, if a person who is sitting in a dark room, due to that one, like, he can't see anything. And when the light comes, then he can see clearly what is what there. So of course, like a spiritual illumination in with like enlightened knowledge from inner knowledge, the person who is in Krishna consciousness, who is in spiritual practice, he sees everything connected to the Lord Shri Krishna. But a person in darkness, he does not see any connection with Shri Krishna, because he sees everything as a thing, and he uses for his purpose. He don't see the connection. Everything is related to Krishna. But a devotee, he uses everything in service of the Lord, and he sees everything is connected to Krishna. So that is the difference between, like, the person who is not illumined with illuminated by the knowledge or enlightened by the knowledge, but the person who is enlightened, he can see everything in connection with Krishna. So that's what everything is meant for the service of Krishna. That's what devotee understands. So this is what this verse is saying. If I'll stop here, I'll take a pause. If anybody have any questions or comments, you can go ahead.
Very nice. You were quoting Socrates, that he was fearless, and even he knew that he was not his body, right?
Yes,
but there's also, I think, a quote by Aristotle, who said, anyone who thinks he is his own master is a fool for a disciple. So everyone needs a spiritual master. You cannot really make progress without accepting a spiritual master.
Yes, Mataji. And I forgot to quote this verse, like, wherever the translation itself, it says, like, the sun, how dissipates the darkness. So it says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the words Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakara Yahan Krishna Taha Nahi Maya Radhikara. Very clearly it's compared here to sunshine, and Maya is compared to darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes the shelter of Krishna conscious Krishna, the darkness of illusion will immediately vanishes. So because wherever the sun is, there is no place of darkness. So there is no
Yes, very
scope.
true.
Yeah, so that's what this translation is also saying. Okay, if no one has any comments, we'll move for the next verse. So I'll share my screen. Okay, the verse is 570. It says, Tad buddhayas tad atmanas tad nishtas tad parayana gachanti apunarravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashah. Tad buddhayas tad atmanas tad nishtas tad parayana gachanti apunarravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashah. So let's see the synonyms. Tad buddhayaha, those whose intelligence is always in the Supreme. Tad atmanaha, those whose minds are always in the Supreme. Tad nishtah, those whose faith is only meant for the Supreme. Tad parayanah, who have completely taken shelter of Him. Gachanti, go. Apunah avrittim, to liberation. Jnana, by knowledge. Nirduta, cleansed. Kalmashah, misgivings. Translation: when one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuse are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Purport: the supreme transcendental truth is Lord Krishna. The whole Bhagavad Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the version of all Vedic literature. Paratattva means the supreme reality, who is understood by the knowers of the Supreme as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the last word in the Absolute. There is nothing more than that. The Lord says, Mattaha Parataram Nanyat Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya. Impersonal Brahman is also supported by Krishna. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Therefore, in all ways, Krishna is the supreme reality. One whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refuse are always in Krishna, or in other words, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness, is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and is in perfect knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. A Krishna conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is duality, simultaneously identity and individuality in Krishna. And equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. Okay. Translation: when one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuse are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So, a very beautiful verse. It says, like, as the previous verse, it said how the Supreme Lord is going to dissipate or illuminate the inner knowledge within us. Then what we need to do to attain that Tat Param. So which is described in the previous verse. So that steps are explained in this verse. So it says Tad Buddhayaha. Buddhi means intelligence. So once we understand that absolute truth, then what we do after that, like, if we know, okay, there is a super soul within our heart and he is the object of our devotion and he is our well-wisher, yes, we know. Then what we can do after that one? Then we make that absolute truth the focus of our meditation. So how can we make that focus of our meditation as our absolute truth? That which the steps are going to explain here. So let's see. Tad buddhayas. Buddhayaha means intelligence. Tad atmanas. Atmanaha means minds. So always intelligence, whose intelligence is always in the Supreme and whose minds are always in the Supreme. Then tanishtas. Nishta means the faith. Tanishta, those whose faith is only meant for the Supreme. And tat parayanaha means who have completely taken shelter of him. So 4 things here it says: buddhi, atma, nishta, parayana. Intelligence, mind, faith, and shelter. So whoever do these 4 unto the Supreme, then what happened? Gachanti, they go. Where they go? Apunar avrittim. Avrittim means rotation. Apunaha means no rotation. Punaha means again. So apunar avrittim means to liberation. They don't come into the repeated cycle of birth and death. So that means that they go to the liberation stage. Then what happened? By doing, what will we get by doing all these things? So that's what it says, like, by doing, like, all these things, like, up means coming back, like, punaravritti means never come back. This material world, they don't come back, and they don't come into the repeated cycle of birth and death. Then how we will do this one is jnana nirduta kalmashaha. When jnana comes, what will happen? What will that jnana do? That do nirduta. Duta means wash. Nirduta means completely washes. The jnana which we get, that jnana washes, cleanses completely. What? Kalmashaha means the darkness. So the darkness, the knowledge which completely washes away the darkness. Then by that one, like, what will happen? We will become liberation. So this very step-by-step verses. So by engaging our intelligence, mind, faith, and taking refuge unto the Supreme Person, one will attain the liberation. And by this knowledge, all these things comes by jnana, that knowledge, and that knowledge cleanses away all of the contamination or ignorance. So let's see this one, like, see, there are 4 points here very importantly explained. So we'll move, like, these 4 step by step. So these 4 lanes are, like, 4 different directions. We cannot move forward very steadily. See, because one should have the 1 point resolution. That's what is explained into second chapter 41 verse. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana bahushaka henantasya buddhayo avyavasayinam. So the aim of a person who is in Krishna consciousness is one resolute, single point goal. So how can we get that single point goal? The AK, how? Fix yourself on one. But how we can fix that one? Make the point goal as 1 point goal. So that 1 point goal, how we can make? If we consider all these 4, we can become 1 point goal. So how we can see? So that first one is that buddhaya. Buddhi means intelligence. So serious spiritual life, like, it begins with the intelligence. So we study and we contemplate and we understand and we will become intelligent, right? So immediately, like, by the first step, I'm not this body, I'm the soul. Then the intelligence make a question, like, what I need to do? Okay, I'm the soul. Then what is next? So that will come. Then what is next? Then we know about Krishna. Then after knowing about Krishna, who is, like, his qualities and everything, then what we need to do, right? So we know, like, knowledge is step by step. It's rising towards to Krishna. It makes us to understand Krishna. Then after understand Krishna, what we have to do, what is our part? That is going to explain these 4 things which explained in this verse. So what will happen? See, the intelligence plays a biggest role. See, in this world is full of temptations. I know this ads and TV, everything is showing material world, sense gratification, especially tempts us. But come and enjoy like that. But we have to turn to Krishna, because we need to develop our buddhi. Then that buddhi is going to lead us towards to the some richer, greater, and deeper happiness, which is connected to Krishna. That's where the intelligence part comes. So just not only the here and go, whatever tempting us, but the buddhi is going to enlighten us. Think what you are doing. Don't simply get enjoy or get connected to this sense enjoyment and entrapped by the temptations. So the buddhi is awakening us. What if I go there? It's a temporary. What next? So that inquisitiveness, that buddhi is required for the spiritual life. So that buddhi, Krishna is saying, engage in me. So that's why it says. So this world gives a lot of promises for us, like, if you buy this one, you will get after some kind of promotes marketing techniques and promises a lot of sense enjoyment in this material world. But we need that intelligence which can makes us study the scriptures, and we understand that Krishna is the absolute truth and Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer. Bhoktara Megna Tapasam. So he is the enjoyer for all sacrifices. So that when we come to know, by engaging our intelligence in the service of Krishna or in the Supreme, by reading scriptures under the guidance of representative of God, that is spiritual master. So it's all interconnected, previous verse then this verse. So when we read the scriptures under the guidance of the representative of the God, what will happen? We come to a conclusion, Sri Krishna is the ultimate source of enjoyment. Whatever tiny things enjoyment I am feeling in this material world, those are flickering. And those are like, sparks of, those are like, attractive, like the sparks of all attractive Krishna. So when we take the Krishna as the center, we will get ultimate and deeper happiness than this. What I am thinking is like, flickering happiness. So that buddhi comes by reading scriptures and by hearing from the representative of the God. So what will happen then? The way how, like Bilomangal Thakur also says, saying that in Krishna Karnamrita, he says Krishna is the only enjoyer and he is the only source of enjoyment. Full stop. He is the only enjoyer and he is the source of enjoyment. So this statement is making me to recollect one pastime. So once Prabhupada was landing in an airport and two devotees, like, one devotee and one the other one is devotee's friend. They both went to pick to pick Prabhupada in the airport. And this devotee, they are standing like arrival gate and they're waiting and flight came and all people are coming out. And this devotee is like, holding a Prabhupada, board, and he was standing there. And all the people started coming down from that flight, and Prabhupada came, and this devotee who is holding the board, he went and he picked the Prabhupada suitcase and everything, and he invited Prabhupada. And the person who is came with that devotee, he started staring at one air hostess who came in the same flight, and she started walking out. And this person who came with the devotee, he started staring at the girl and forgot like what he is doing. He started turning like this wherever that girl went. And when he came, when the girl went out of his sight, then he turned back straight, and immediately in front of his eyes there is Prabhupada. And he got little embraced, he felt very shy, something he didn't feel comfortable. And then Prabhupada asked, isn't she so beautiful, right? Then Prabhupada asked like this only, and that person said, what he has, he was like bewildered. He said, yes, Prabhupada. Then Prabhupada said, see, if the spark of Krishna is so much of beautiful, then imagine how beautiful Krishna is. So with that answer, that person, oh, really, that spark, it made me not able to turn anywhere. But if Krishna is that much beautiful, then then imagine the beauty of Krishna. Like that Prabhupada connected. So that's how, whatever we feel the enjoyment, whatever we feel the attraction in this material world, those are like a sparks. That's what scripture says, that what Acharya says, and that is what the clear. Because even if you go to any temple, when they decorate very well, you can't even take out of the sight. So that darshan of the Lord. So that whatever existing in this material world, that enjoyment or attraction, temptation, whatever we call, the object of our enjoyment is spark of Krishna. So the ultimate object of enjoyment is Krishna. So that's what Bilvamangal Thakur says. So like this, the buddhi enlightens us. So don't go with this flickering happiness behind the sense objects, and try to understand who is the source of enjoyment, and try to understand to that one, and try to reach to that destination, not like flickering happiness. This is called the buddhi. And Krishna is saying in this verse, that buddha, yes, engage that intelligence in the supreme absolute. So that's what it says. Then coming to the tad atmanaha. So tad atmanas means atma use lot of times like different contexts. Sometimes body we can use for atma, and soul we can use, mind we can use. So like that, different situations we can use the atma. Even in 6.5 and there also we use bandhur atma atmanastasya. Even relatives, like in bodily relationships we can use atma. But here, the soul, the atma, tad atmanaha is used to represent the mind, because all Krishna here is talking about the inner knowledge. So the attributes for for that atma which represents the inner is the mind. So then the atmanaha, which one involves, like when one involved with the mind, is closer to his goal, right? So like if a patient is there, So if there is a patient and he has going through some disease, and he in allopathic they said that when there is no treatment, if he has to go for some other or ayurvedic or something, so he loses his hopes, like, okay, I came and I am new to ayurvedic, and he don't involve much, he don't have some complete faith on the ayurvedic treatment. So he tries to understand the treatment, and he involves his mind in that one. So when we involve in any action our mind, that makes us closer to that goal. See, like when we are working, and if you are new to technology, sometimes we get, like, works challenges, new area, new kind of project. So the mind has to involve. If you don't use the mind, if you do, see, if it is known job, you can do without mind or without much concentration, we can do and we can end it off. But if comes like a new area which we need to focus, means the mind is required. That mind makes our focus deeper, or point, like a one point, so that we can go closer to that goal. So that's why here Krishna is saying atmana is refers to mind, and that atma we need to engage in the service of the Lord, means thinking of Krishna. So that mind is subtle attribute. So mind, from mind, intelligence, false ego, those are the subtle attributes. So Krishna is saying, like, inner, like, we have to internalize the knowledge what we got from the scriptures. That's why Krishna is saying here, engage that mind in my thoughts, or engage that mind in my service. So that means that mind always think of Krishna, and never stop thinking of Krishna, like that. So then what will happen? Tad nishtas. So nishta means the faith. So how the faith comes here? So faith is like Shri Krishna, like we have, when it comes to the chanting. So what will happen? We know our, through the intelligence and through the mind, or we read lot of things. Hare Krishna mantra is not different from Krishna. There is no difference between the holy name and the person of the Krishna. We all knows that one. But how much faith we have, like, we put on that, and we involve ourselves in the chanting. That is the where the nishta comes. The faith is very, very important. So like we try, like, let me try to offer like, Krishna is saying here, okay, let me try to offer my like, my affection through the holy name to the living entity. But we don't have that faith. So the reciprocation Krishna want to give through the holy name when we chant, but thing is we don't put that faith on that one. So that's why tan nishtas, this holy name will purify me, it will give me insight, like, that purification, that strong faith. Okay, I'm chanting, this holy name will purify me, one day I will understand Krishna, and this holy name is going to break all my inner knots of my whatever, like sinful actions or karmic reactions or fruitive activities. That knot, it's going to be like, it's no, that whole power of the holy name is going to break that one, so that I can understand, I can give more concentration towards to the holy name, like that. So that faith is very, very important. So this is the third faculty which, like, Krishna is saying that one, put this faculty towards to me, like that. First is the intelligence, then atmanaha, mind, then nishta, faith. So then comes the tat parayanaha. Parayanaha means the goal. So making tat parayanaha means taking completely the shelter of the Lord, or making the absolute truth is our goal. So that tat parayanaha comes. So like here Chaitanya Charan Prabhu explains very nicely that karma kandis. So what will happen? Okay, I am born in India, I want to visa, and there are, like, specific visa Ganesha or visa Balaji temples. I go to that one, and we do the purpose of that one. But what is the motivation behind the devotion is like a visa to America, not like a god. So like in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a pastime called Pururava and Urvashi. It comes in 9th and 11th cantos, both cantos. And that Pururava, what happens? He got attracted to Urvashi, and he spent some time with the Urvashi. Then as Urvashi is a celestial Apsara, in that she has to go back to her place. So she left Pururava. And this Pururava was so much entangled in the trap of Urvashi, and he performs yajnas, sacrifices. And even for that sacrifice, Lord Vishnu appears. Lord Vishnu appears himself from the sacrifice, and this Pururava so much of entangled, like he's not like a Tat Parayanaha. He was like Urvashi Parayanaha. He want Urvashi as a goal. So even Lord Vishnu appears from the sacrifice. He asks Vishnu, please give Urvashi to me. So this much, like if the soul Krishna want to give, see, if we are so much of attracted to any small pieces, if we see like like attractive more than that one, that desire like is going to suppress the previous one. Like how Dhruva Maharaj, he want the big kingdom than his father, but when Lord Narayana appears, he forgot what he want, and he forgot who and he forgot how to glorify the Lord. So everything with Lord's mercy he glorified. So that is Tat Parayana. So that is like like even after seeing the Lord, he glorified. But here Pururava, so much so that he entangled, he want only Urvashi. Even the all attractive Vishnu appears from the sacrifice, no, he want Urvashi. So what happens? He asked Urvashi only. So then what happened? Lord Vishnu gave Urvashi. Then again he is entrapped. So that's why like even we sometimes what we do with our like desires, what we'll do sometimes, like people will think, oh, this spirituality is very nice, so if I sing in the kirtan or if I go to the temple dance with the devotees, it brings like a peace to me. And if I go to the temple, take a darshan of deities, I feel peace. So it's not like a spirituality is like a stress relief. Of course, one of the quality of a devotional service and any kind of bhakti, any kind of devotional service is brings auspiciousness, which is like stress relief. But we should not take that one as a stress relief. Oh, I'm tired, fed up of the week, let's go to the temple, sit in front of the Lord, which give me peace. No, that is not the motivation of our spiritual activity. The motivation of the spiritual activity is to rise our consciousness, go towards to the Lord. It's not like whether I'm peaceful, it's bringing peace to me. No, because naturally when the soul get connect to the super soul, or when the part is connect to the whole, it feels satisfaction. But that satisfaction is not like by the result of that action. Even if we think of the Lord, it gives satisfaction, because the nature of that land, because the soul is conditioned soul is getting connect to the supreme soul. So the nature of that connection is itself peace. The nature of that connection itself is satisfaction. But our activity, our spiritual activity should not be bound like by the desire of let's go sit for the temple, or let's do some dance with the devotees, I feel good. No, it's not like that. So I feel good means again self-centered. As I want to feel good, that's why I went in front of the devotees and in front of all the devotees and danced for some time. So that is again self-centered. So that's why here it says like Tat Parayanaha, making Krishna as our goal is very, very important. So that because Krishna is the Sarva Akarshana iti Krishna. The name of Krishna is all attractive. Because Sarva Akarshana iti Krishna. Krishna attracts everything. Because he is all attractive. That's why he attracts everything. So that's why the goal of spiritual life is to make spiritual life as our goal. That is the only thing. Goal of our spiritual life is make spiritual life our goal. That is our goal. So even where we are in the sadhaka stage or wherever we are, that is making our spiritual life as our goal is our goal. So that's why here it says, then by engaging all this, tat buddhi, tat atmanaha, Tanishta, tan patat parayanaha. By giving all these things, what will happen? Gachanti apunar avrittim. So one gets liberation. One gets liberation, and that jnana nidhuta kalmashaha. That jnana cleanses all the kalmashaha, means the impurities. So now we have seen all these 4 stages, right? So now let's see like path, how this spiritual evolution goes towards to Krishna. There are different paths. Like example, if I want to go to Mayapur, so that is my goal. Sadhya means goal. So that is my goal. I want to go to Mayapur. But sadhana is like practice. Like how I go is how I am going to achieve that goal to reach Mayapur. That is my choice. I can go by car, I go by walk, I go by plane, or I go by any other things, like, drive, any other things. But that free will is there for Krishna, for a living entity. Okay, both sadhya, to make Krishna as goal, is also living in its free will, and to choose with which practice so that I can reach Krishna, that is also free will. But intelligent persons choose the best and right right and effective way to choose Krishna. Like, coming to our, like, yoga ladder, karma kandis is they follow dharma to attain artha and kama. Those are karma kandis. They work, they want artha, kama, they follow dharma. Okay, then comes sakama karma yoga. Sakama karma yoga is, like, they have some desire and they want eternal goal. So they want some material thing, at the same time their goal, like some spiritual thing. Both they want to do. Here's half, there half. I want materially something, I want spiritually goal also. That is sakam karma yoga. Then comes nishkam karma yoga. Nishkam karma yoga is, my only goal is eternal sadhya, that is only Krishna, like, whatever they want. Nishkam karma yoga. Then comes jnana yoga, the sadhana, like one conception, like, eternal truth, Brahman realization. Okay, then comes dhyana yoga. So dhyana yoga is Paramatma is my goal. That is dhyana, meditation. So then comes the bhakti yoga. Then that bhakti yoga, in that one also, Kevala Bhakti is the stage where we can attain one pointed goal. Kevala Bhakti, that's what Krishna says. Sarvadharmahan parityajya mam ekam sharanam raja. Surrender unto me, thinking that I am only Sharana to you. I am the only Sharana to you, no one else. That is Kevala Bhakti. That is 1 point resolution, which it's explained in 241. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana. That's what Krishna is making in this verse also. Ekeha kurunandana, 1 point resolution, and make me as sadhya. Sadhya means goal. So that's what Kevala Bhakti. So Prabhupada says that one, that Kevala Bhakti whoever makes, that is the what. See, now I said the example of reaching to Mayapur. If I choose with my intelligence by bike, when will I reach to Mayapur? Okay, leave it. If I choose by any other thing, walk, then forget about in my lifetime, I'll reach Mayapur. So if I choose Bhakti, Kevala Bhakti, then what will happen? It like choosing a flight. By flight, I'll go to Mayapur, which makes sense. Which makes sense in my lifetime, I can see Mayapur. So that's how the choosing Bhakti Yoga. In our lifetime, effectively we reach Krishna. That's what Prabhupada is explaining and Krishna is explaining in the scriptures. Choose effectively the goal, how to reach the goal. Not choosing Krishna as goal, but how to reach that thing. That made Prabhupada, like, Prabhupada made that path very, very, very reasonable and effective, and which is like, which is like, applicable to any living entity can attain. That's easy. Like, if you see all this yoga ladder, who will understand Dhyana yoga, who will sit for this one, this many meditation, this many, our lifetime is very less. Then, like, choosing Bhakti yoga, following Prabhupada instructions, simply that one is the best thing, so that we can reach by flight to Mayapur. Same thing, we will reach by Prabhupada mercy, by holding Prabhupada dhoti to Golok Vrindavan. That's what the intelligent persons can do. So that's what Prabhupada is, this verse is explaining. So here, one thing I want to explain, share is, here last paragraph in purport, it says that one, thoroughly, the Krishna conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is duality in Krishna. What is the duality? That duality is nothing but, like, similarities. Like, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, achintya beda beda tattva. So we are one in similar with Krishna, but quality wise, quantity wise, we are like apart. So that duality is there between Krishna. So he is identical with us in one sense, in a quality wise, but he is far big, like, we are Anu, he is Vibhu. That is like, indifference. So that's what here it says duality in Krishna means. So that's why with this knowledge, what will happen with this transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. So that what I have for this verse. If anybody have any points or connections, please go ahead. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Nice points for reflection. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, any other questions or comments? Three more minutes is there. If nobody have any comments or questions, we'll offer prayers to the assembled Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpat पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव
वैष्णवंद की जय, श्रील
प्रभुपाद
प्रभुपाद की
की जय
जय, श्रीमद् भगवत गीता की जय।
जय Thank you all so much, Mataji.
वल्लभी गोपी माता जी की जय। हरे
All glories
कृष्णा,
to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा everyone.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.